that Hmong guy going to Laos and like doing those videos of like introducing girls. Have you guys ever seen those videos? Yeah, like it would be like these Hmong guys like mutai panya and tamplotena.
And he'd also do the full up and down.
Ooh,
entirely.
That's so gross.
Yeah, and then like Hi, before we start this episode, we did want to put out a quick trigger warning out there. In this episode, we will be talking about grooming and defining what grooming is, and big uncomfortable age gaps in relationships. So if that's something that you're not comfortable with, we do ask that you watch this episode with caution. Or if you decide not to join us in this episode, totally okay. Feel free to join us for our next episode. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoy. Hi, welcome to the Hmong Women Podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us. My name is Emily.
My name's Ariel.
And I'm Dochi.
So today we want to talk about uncomfortable age gaps in romantic relationships. And oftentimes what can happen in those is the grooming that can happen in those relationships. So we want to start off with this question, which is, where are we coming from with this topic? And I'm happy to start us off. So I've been seeing videos going around, and not just these videos, but from personal experience as well, of a lot of men talking about, the reason why they date younger women is because the younger women are less set in their ways, and that younger women are more impressionable, right? They're easier to teach. They have less life experience. Yeah, I see your face, Dochi. It's kind of evident what they mean by that, by very impressionable, is that they're easy to manipulate, right? And we know why. But that's where I'm coming from. From personal experience, I know what it's like to talk to older men and be in a relationship with older men. And so I know where they're coming from, right? Again, it's that, how can they sway me to do the things that they want to do with their life?
When I think about that, I think about all the instances that I've heard about it over my life. A few of the things that stick out are basically when there's a huge age gap, and I think traditionally too, like when people get traditionally Hmong married, that it's not recognized by the courts, and it's not also legally binding. And then I think just from listening to other people's stories and having friends too, it really does involve people using techniques from like sweet talking to snatching a bride by force, or just even pretending to snatch a bride by force, even though they both agreed to it. So just personally, for me at least, that's sort of the small instances that it's popped up for me. But I actually did a little bit of research on this, and people actually began taking notice of these international relationships in the late 1990s when travel restrictions eased between the Laos and the US, and Hmong people could visit their homeland in greater numbers. That's actually quoted from Chick Dabby, the co-director of the San Francisco-based Asian Pacific Institute on Gender-Based Violence.
Yeah, same as Ariel. I've never had any personal experiences, but I was fairly sheltered, and the older I got, the more I understood why from my mother's perspective. We would hear a lot of stories about these, grooming and uncomfortable types of, I don't even want to call them relationships, but situations between young children, name it what it is, and adult men. And as you said earlier, Emily, it has a lot to do with the fact that men feel that they're easier to teach. And I also have been seeing some videos. There was most recently, it was like a court case. Granted, this young lady was 18 when she supposedly married this grown adult male who was, I think, mid to late 30s. They were not Hmong, they were minority individuals. And this guy was complaining about how he did not like that she could not help take care of anything in the home. But to have married someone at the ripened age of 30 or 18 means what took place before that. Because it just, the math ain't mathin'. And he was talking about how she couldn't help with anything around the home, that he is the breadwinner and he does everything, because when she started to grow older, she started to have questions and started asking to do things, and she started gaining her independence. And I don't exactly remember what the case was about, but of course, one of the main points the judge made was, how do you expect to take a child at a young age and want to reap the, like, what is the right word? Like the positive things of it and not want to suffer the consequences. You can't expect a child to know how to run a home, but you want the child for the exact reasons you just stated, because it's easier to have them do what you want. It still happens a lot, and specifically in our Hmong community, I just think that it's important that we do recognize that.
I definitely think that it's something that we as a community know but don't talk about. I can't tell you how many times people that I know, like from high school or even when I was in high school, who was like talking to guys who were adults, like full grown adults. And now as an adult, you're looking back on that and you're like, that's gross. That's really disgusting. The fact that a grown adult is looking at you, a child, and thinking, I want to date that person romantically. Yeah. Because I'm even looking at my younger sister right now. How old is she? She's 24. And I'm like, you're a child. You're still a baby to me. And I can't imagine somebody thinking that way. A 27-year-old looking at a 17-year-old and thinking, yeah, I want to date that person, you know? Yeah. And I just want to say, you know, before I talk about the Hmong cultures, how we see that reflected in the celebrity world. People saying, well, if it's accepted in Hollywood and this overall culture of the world, it must be okay to accept that in normal parts of society too. Yeah, and so it is interesting to see that. And it's not just male, female, right? And it's not just female, male, but it is really that power dynamic of the older person, like where are they financially, where are they, you know, in their career, and like where are they emotionally, and like obviously, right, there's the part of like, okay, well, where's the younger person, right? If you are like Sarah Paulson and her partner, right? Obviously, Sarah Paulson's established in her career, she's an adult, and like her partner is also an older person established in their career, and they got together when they were both adults. And if Sarah Paulson were to break up with her partner, she would be fine. She was an adult and they got together and like she had her own career, that would be fine. But if Sarah Paulson and that person got together when she was 20 and she had not had an established career yet, and this person like had helped her get every single opportunity along the way, and like she felt like her identity was built into this person, like that would be a different story, you know? And so anyways.
So with that, actually, that and maybe we did go through this already, but if you don't mind, just with the viewers, describing a little bit more of what is grooming.
Let's Google it so people will know. Grooming is the practice of preparing or training someone for a particular purpose or activity, right? And so then if we are talking about grooming with someone with an age gap, it's when someone like purposely builds that relationship of trust emotionally, mentally, and even physically and romantically. Like they're saying like, you can trust me because nobody else is going to like treat you this way. Like you're different, right? Like you're really mature for your age, and like, you know, I've never felt this way about anyone. Like you're different for like people your age, and like I usually don't do this. And like they would do things with you that they're telling you that they would do things with you that they usually wouldn't do with other people, and like just making you feel like you're one out of everybody else, right? And like constantly like building this like world of trust and making you feel like you're different and you're like you're this person that is so special to them. And then when they get you to a spot where you completely feel like you can trust them, then they slowly chip away at that trust, right? And they're like, they do these small little things of like, oh, well, I just did this. I didn't think it would be a big deal that I did this, right? And so then they slowly start to chip away at that. Or like at some point it becomes such a blind trust where like they make excuses to other people like, oh, well, she chose to stay with me, or they chose to stay with me, or he chose to stay with me, you know, like those kind of things. So that's what really grooming is like building such a blind trust from a person, especially if you're a young age kind of person, that like you blindly truly believe that their intent was true, right? And we see that with a lot of people. And sometimes like people stay trusting this person and they say it was never grooming. It's, I truly believe this person is a good person. But there are also a lot of people who like have a really ill intent and they truly purposely groomed a young individual into believing that they were a good person, but they had really horrible intents about that. And if you don't believe me, watch true crime. Watch true crime podcasts and you'll see just how many like, and I'm not saying that all age gap relationships are pedophiles, but that like you'll just see how many people like participate in grooming activities. And not even that, but just how many people were in age gap relationships and like who got out of those. And you're just like, the behaviors that this person exhibited were really, really disgusting, right? And like from personal experience, like I had one person, I don't even want to think about it, but I will, who like would always say like, oh, well, like, well, you know, you're really smart. Like you talk about all these things that you're really passionate about that nobody your age really talks about. Like, and I think that that's really nice that you do that, because like nobody else is passionate about these things like you are, right? And that's how he connected with me. Was like I would talk about these things that I'm really passionate about, and it's like nobody else your age talks about those things, and it's like that's how he got me, right? And it's like, oh, he's older, and that's true. Nobody my age talks about these things, so that's really nice. And then from there was how we built that trust, right? And I was like really young and naive, and I was like, oh, you know, that's true. Nobody else my age does talk about these things.
So he was almost putting you on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so that's how it starts, right? And luckily I'm like, okay, this is weird after a while, right? And it took a while to get there, but then that's essentially what it was, you know? So just be careful about, you know, who you let into your life. Obviously, again, right? Every age gap relationship is different. There are, for some people it does work out. Some people do have positive intents, but you know, just a word of caution.
In worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is more to just look out for our younger individuals who may not be aware of what grooming might look like. And a lot of the verbiage you just mentioned, you know, made me think back to when I was younger. Again, I was fairly sheltered, so not coming out of the home a lot. And I was just taught at a very young age to just not even play with boys or be around men in general. So I hung out with my grandma, but I know that through a lot of conversations with some cousins, that's pretty much what she was told too. I lived vicariously through her, and I just remember those conversations that we had where she would say things like, yeah, he's much older and he says that I'm really, and it was almost like a race to see who can be more mature because it seems like at that age that's just a quality that you wanted to have, because you don't want to be seen as a child or to be childish, but you are a child. And for those out there listening, you know, talking with your kids or your nieces and nephews or whatever, if some adult is telling your child that they're really mature over and over and that they're special in that sense, I would be cautious of that individual being around your kid, because no kid, I think, is mature to an extent of an individual who was like in their mid-20s. I didn't fully develop my brain until I was literally 2 years ago, you know, 25, being able to think more critically. And when I think back to being that young and hearing somebody tell me that I was mature, just kind of puts you into the perspective of what was wrong with that person. Why did they think I was mature at all? What did you see? And then it brings you around the circle of, well, what did they intend to do? Why would they say that? Because obviously I was not. So yeah, just looking out for those people who have not so good intentions based on what they're saying to your kids. But I did hear that floating around when some distant cousin of wherever and somewhere got married. It was gossip in the home. And as a kid, I didn't fully understand it, but I would hear it. Like, oh, New York, like, like he's so old, like, or whatever. And as a kid, I'm like, ooh, like, why though? Like, I knew that was disgusting, but I didn't know why to me, and they'll be like, oh, chi yo so and so by like this much or that much, and they're really, really young. And it was just normalized. And I think that just because it's been normalized doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't mean that you can hop on that boat and say, well, so-and-so does it, or Western people in Hollywood do it, so that why can't we? Because I've heard that as a debate before too. Like, this person, that person does it. Like, what's so bad in with age gaps? But it's what you mentioned earlier, Emily, the power dynamic of it. Age gap relationships are not bad. It's the power dynamic in those relationships and how you go about building that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And I do want to make a like quick note to what Ariel said too about like, how are we talking to Hmong women about it versus Hmong men? And like, I don't know if you guys like saw these videos growing up, but then like I remember like on YouTube, this is really horrible, but like a bunch of like the Hmong guys in our class would always be like, oh, did you see that video of like that Hmong guy going to Laos and like doing those videos of like introducing girls? Have you guys ever seen those videos? Yeah, like it would be like these Hmong guys like mutai panya and tamplotena, and it would be like, oh,
And he'd also do the full up and down.
Ooh,
entirely.
that's so gross.
Yeah, and then like they would be like ball, and they'd be like and like, what's your name? What village are you from? And then like guys would be, and he'd be like, and stuff like that. And it's like, these videos are like of him saying like, this Hmong girl is single, and if you're interested, come to Laos. And like, I just remember like, this isn't real. And I remember asking my mom, I'm like, is this real? And she was like, yeah, some guys actually like watch those videos to like Muntipanya, like Niyo and stuff like that. On one hand, these girls obviously probably don't know that they're on there, but some of these girls probably do know that they're on there because like Ariel said, right, they're being told like, men in America have money and they need to get taken care of, and the way to get taken care of is to find an older man in America because Americans have money, especially Hmong Mika, right? And so it's like, so como and they're gonna take care of you. And so I just remember seeing those videos, and I'm just like, what is being fed to these women, right? And so then they're coming to America, they're getting married, and like, why is that acceptable? And it's because we're telling them like, as long as you're being taken care of by an older man, like, that's okay.
In those videos too, they also give their phone numbers. So
Dude, yeah,
that's the other thing, is that like, I found it really weird too. I found it almost at like one point like we're selling cattle.
Yeah,
It's like, if you want this brown-haired, 5'2", 112-pound lean mass woman, and then he gets literally like does the full up and down, and then she's like, yes, I'm still free and single. Here's my number. Da 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 da.
yeah, oh yeah. Like sometimes in his video spin, he'd be like, ooh,
yeah, ooh.
yeah, and I'm just like,
That's what made it feel like cattle.
yeah, because he would like, when he's spanning them, he would like, the camera would go up and down, and he in the background he'd be like, oh yeah, then I'm like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
We'll show you later, Doji.
I want to see that. It makes me want to like puke, because even myself, you know, just the experience of I have a really not so great relationship with interacting with men. I'm still unsure exactly. Again, I was raised to not even interact with them. So maybe that's what it is. But when I am talking to someone, and I've had a couple interactions where it could just be a stranger or someone at work, and when they kind of graze at you up and down, like I immediately get the ick. And it's kind of like,
I think anyone would.
yeah, and I don't know and this is a genuine question because I am not a man, okay? What in your brain clicks for you to think that if I look at her like this in front of her face so that she's aware, she might just want me? Because I'm just saying from experience, not a single person that I know or myself sees that and goes, ooh, let me get some of that. No, I immediately think, get the hell away from me, get far, far away from me, do not touch me, do not bother me. And to hear that they're like doing that on video, when you were describing that, that's exactly what I thought, Emily or Ariel. It's like, you sound like you're trying to sell a product.
It's essentially what it was.
It's so dehumanizing to be like, ooh, look at this one. Yep, she's single and, you know, she's whatever and she lives here and oh my God, panning up and down. And
I feel like that's a big part of it too, is when we're here, we come with a lot of big opportunities and we're given a lot more experiences than, you know, those who are living in Thailand or Laos. And so for little girls over there, you know, I feel like a lot of them, or the majority of them, they're being brought up to be the perfect housewife. Because I know that a lot of the parents can't afford education or they don't know what another route is for them. So, yeah.
mm-hmm.
It definitely is that, right? It's like on one hand, that's what they're being told and taught because they want to better their life, because there's not much else to do over there and there's not much opportunity, because it is still the results of what happened during the war, right? It is still the results of it, you know, them trying to better their life. And the other part is like, well, these men see an opportunity and they're taking advantage of that opportunity. And it's just like, it's really unfortunate that they see that there's this a disadvantage. And instead of saying, well, I want to support you to go to school and just pay for your school, they're like, I will pay for you to be my wife, you know? And it's like, okay, well, that $500 that you're sending over there to like sleep with her, you could just send that $500 to get her to school, you know? But anyways.
Yeah. And I can't say that this specifically ties in, I mean, technically with grooming, because even in today's world, I could be wrong, but I almost feel that it's now, because una, I swear it was really and the term itself says it. It's niemo.
Yeah.
So we full on know. We just say it as it is and we say it's okay. Yeah. And it's like, it's the fact that you are outwardly doing this with no shame at all is what's so embarrassing about it. But I started to realize that, and this is not to shame people who decide that they do want to marry someone who is from overseas. That's not the point. The point is how you go about it. I'm realizing that there are more individuals, young adults within our age group, who are incapable of finding a partner here in the U.S., so they seek out women in Laos or in Thailand from overseas. And I feel that the common thing between them is they feel that the women here are too, in their words, stuck up. So, it's you're too set in your ways. And I'm like, if you're trying to get with a woman who knows what they... Ooh, let's put a three-way camera here.
Continue, Dochi. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Like, because it's like trying to have these conversations, and when you're starting to see individuals our age go overseas to purposely marry in Tasamana, I'm genuinely like, so... like, did you meet someone and you fell in love, or are you purposely just seeking out someone who's younger from overseas? And that's what it was. It was just like, because the women here think that they're too good. Like, you think you're too good. And this stems to something that I recently came upon where I used to hear that, where I think I'm too good and I'm too stuck up. No, I am good. And it does not mean I'm stuck up. It means that you have some insecurities with yourself, and whatever I am doing is affecting your ego, and you got to fix that on your own. And if that is the case with our men, that's a conversation that needs to be had, you know? But yeah, I don't know about you guys in your circle. If you're seeing this, I know a few individuals who have sought out women because, because then there's that thought of, I have money and she's going to respect me because of that. The women over here they think they're too, yes, okay, if you want me to be not so, what I was once told, too masculine, apparently. I'm too masculine, is what I was told. Because I do things on my own. They don't have to worry about that with someone who's younger from overseas who doesn't know how the Western world works. It's like, well, of course, because they've never been here before, and you're going to have them in the palm of your hands. But if that's what you think is best for you, there's something psychologically wrong with you. And I was also doing some brief research, and what it says here is groomers seek out victims for emotional and physical or psychological characteristics, being low on self-esteem, neglect, or trusting. And so if you're someone who thinks that I don't want to be with a woman here because everyone's too stuck up for me, I'm going to find someone who will bow down to me, you should get some psychological evaluations. That's my biggest suggestion right now, just to help everyone.
Well, to add on to that, I think you need to do some deep inward thinking if you think that, well, whatever you do with your life, it's fine, completely fine. But at the end of the day, if you complain about not being able to get a date and find someone to date, look inward. I promise you. You won't regret it. But anyway, I think one of the other common threads too is independence. So I think a lot of it, so going back to the power dynamic, is how can I find a way to find someone who will financially, mentally, and physically depend on me? And I think that's one of the things too is I don't have a lot of Hmong guy friends, and the ones that I do are more modernized. But I think that's the thing is I think a lot of men nowadays too, they do think about that is if I get someone from overseas, they'll depend on me, they'll love me, they won't want to do anything but make a family with me. So, yeah.
Fun. Get yourself a cattle. Make a day out of it, man.
There are just some things that if an age gap relationship works for you because you're both consenting adults and you're both established in your life and that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. But again, right, there are just some things in some relationships where you really need to examine, right? Are you both equal in the relationship? And I feel like not a lot of people do that, especially when you're purposely going to another country where you're looking for neyomoa, and to bring it to not just elders to go back to Laos and Thailand, but even in America, I don't know if this is the same for you guys too, but I mentioned it briefly earlier where in high school, right, I'd have classmates who had boyfriends who were a lot older than them who would be dating waiting to pick them up after school was out, and it's you're dating a high schooler as an adult. Yeah. So I just think overall, if we talk about it in the Hmong community, I think we need to start on the inside, right? Maybe call out your friends if they're talking to an underage girl and be like, hey, maybe it's not okay for you to talk to somebody who's in high school, and she just graduated high school and you're 28. Are you okay with talking to somebody who just got out of high school? And you know who I'm talking about.
Sure, a couple of names popped up.
And I'm thinking about us when we were 18, all of us, right? We thought we were mature, and we were, right? Because we had all gone through a lot of stuff, but we still had a lot of life experience to put under our belt, right? like 18-year-old us then is nothing compared to who we are now.
It's funny because we only talk about the Hmong culture, but then I've also seen other instances where that's happened outside the Hmong culture.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's like more accepted, but anyway, that's a tangent. But I think that's a really good point, is really addressing it and talking about it with whoever is doing that. And to even make it even more of a baby step is just saying on how uncomfortable you are with it. So if you, because I know people too who like talk to women overseas.
Yeah, I agree with both of those point of views, because I think for myself, like, I just shrug it off because I feel that it's not a conversation worthy of me having with someone. Like, I'm never going to see them again. They're disgusting. I'll just stay away. Or maybe keep them out of my circle. That doesn't necessarily help the cause either. As you mentioned, starting small with calling them out. And it doesn't have to be until the point where they're already trying to go out with someone. I think it can start as small as when they are starting to exhibit certain attractions to someone who is a minor. You know, because we see that. I've seen screenshots of chats amongst the Hmong community. Yes, I am. Where it's like these conversations where men are sending, and they're like, oh, it's just a joke. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. But long story short, just because you put "it's a joke" on it doesn't mean that it's okay. I think that's the stupidest cover up in the world. So if you and your friends group do stupid shit and your cover up is, it's just a joke, we were just chatting, maybe learn how to use other terms or to cover different conversations that are actually funny. Because if something's funny, you do not need to explain that it's funny, and that's not funny. But having to see just so many conversations come up where earlier you mentioned celebrities, and in our own community, having seen that when somebody sometimes rises up to a platform where they're capable of bringing in younger individuals, they tend to like to reach out to very either young adults or minors and try to like solicit stuff from them. And once those things surface, they like, it kind of just comes and goes. Like, we don't fully recognize it. And I've seen comments on these threads too. It's like, oh, she wanted it. I do not understand that at all. To say that a child knows what they want like that. I mean, granted, think about a toddler. Okay, sometimes a toddler wants ice cream before they go to bed. Does that mean that it's right? No, okay? Because they don't know the differences between right and wrong. What we should focus on is the adult who is making these decisions, and we're not doing that. We tend to we victim blame, and when we're focusing on these things, call out your friends who think it's okay to make inappropriate comments towards underage women or just underage individuals, whether it's a male towards a female or a female towards a male, because either way, it is disgusting. It's not something that we should continue to just pretend like didn't happen. And even if you're someone who I know in a certain friendship group that I've had before, it was just a conversation they didn't want to have because I don't want it to be a problem. It's not that big of a deal. That person is just like that. It's like, okay, well then shun them out so that they understand their consequences. So they don't do that. When you don't do anything about it and you continue to let them be around you like that, they're just going to continue to be like that because they think it's okay. And they think that it's accepted. Ooh, rough topic here.
Yeah, it definitely is a rough topic, and I feel like we could talk about it on days, for 2 days on end. But I think for now, this is what I have to say on the topic, right? That like as a community, we can do better, and where we can start is we know that men oftentimes listen to their fellow brothers best, and there's evidence to back that up, right? Men listen to other men more than they listen to women. And so call your fellow brothers out when you see this kind of behavior, because I know, right, if you have a daughter and she's talking to a man who's 20 years older than her, you're more likely to be like, why is this 20 man who's 20 years older than my daughter talking to her? So I think that should start there is, where can you call in somebody when, this kind of inappropriate relationship is happening. So
Thank you for joining us today in our episode. This one was a little bit heavier than other topics that we've discussed, but we would love for you to share with us your takes regarding grooming and uncomfortable age gaps. Let us know in the comments below what ways you've contributed to having difficult conversations regarding these. And we do hope to see you in our next episode. Thank you.